All right, welcome. Let's give some time for people to filter in. Got to get my links going here as normal as well. All right, let's see. We're going to try something a little different today. And we are creating a Twitter space. So just give us an extra minute or so to get that set up. So, very good. So it will be set up the same. Let's see. Everything will be set up the same in terms of YouTube and also in terms of Discord here, but in addition, we are going into Twitter Spaces as well. All right. Welcome everyone to this week's Community AMA. And once again, I've got us on a YouTube live stream. We're here on Discord and the Sphere Discord, and also we're here on Sphere Finance's Twitter Space, as well as per the community request. So we'll just give it another minute for people to filter in, and then we'll get started. All right. Very good. Well, I think I'll jump in. For those of us joining us on Twitter Spaces, if you haven't been here before, welcome to Sphere Finance. These community AMAs are intended to answer community questions, kind of bridge the gap between core and community, help provide additional information about what's going on within Sphere, kind of recap announcements, and of course, respond to questions as they are live. Most of the time, I'll be reading off of the stage chat section of the Sphere Discord, but we do have CryptoFat, who is available on Twitter Spaces to read any comments and forward them to me as well. And in addition, these are recorded events, so if you're unable to attend fully, or if you'd like to see something that we're talking about, it of course will be available in the future. So to get started, Sphere has its protocol called Dyson, which is a yield maximizer that we are working on optimizing. And we are working on a number of different initiatives to improve the functionality and usability of Dyson, including historical metrics. And several updates have already been pushed to the front end. So certain pools are now showing the correct information. For example, the GNS vault. With respect to the UniV3 vault position managers, those are being reworked to further integrate the fee APRs of those positions. All right. Some people had questions regarding the vault compounding. For the most part, these vaults will be auto-compounded on their own based on the last harvest plus 24 hours. So if 24 hours goes by without a deposit or withdraw to trigger the gas fees to compound, it will do so itself, so long as there are enough earnings in the harvest to fully cover the gas fees and still be profitable for everyone in the pool. All right. Other updates we have about Prion. So Prion is our CDP that is in the works, currently in internal testing. So that is very exciting, and very, very excited to have that getting rolling here. Prion will have a lot of interesting mechanics, but at its core, it will offer cross-margin lending within the protocol. Sphere Lend as well, and Liquid Farmed Matic or Lovematic are being tested by staff outside of the core. So that has moved into further testing as well. And Sphere Lend is our own borrowing lending protocol. And Lovematic or Liquid Farmed Matic is essentially a product where Lovematic will farm Matic in other protocols and take the yield to rebase into more Lovematic. So Lovematic will be a rebasing token that will earn yield and pass that yield on to the holders. With the recent launch of Satin Exchange, we're able to integrate Lovematic into Satin Exchange, where Lovematic can actually function similarly to Cash to provide auto bribes to the liquidity pools. So for example, Lovematic Cash LP and or the Lovematic Matic LP, for example. We spell it LF Matic, so for Liquid Farmed Matic, but in order to abbreviate, we say Lovematic. These are questions coming up in the stage chat on Discord. In addition, so we are expanding Dyson out to other chains as well, including Avalanche. And Flare Dex is one of the dexes that we'll be expanding into Avalanche, but it is not the only dex we'll be doing this for. With respect to our current liquid wrapper solutions, we have ylSPHERE, and that is getting near 10% of the entire voting power of Solid Lizard. So it has been very effective at absorbing that voting power and also maintaining the peg of ylSPHERE to SLIZ. Now, as we grow that voting power, the peg is currently at 99.5% for ylSPHERE to SLIZ. So the mechanism is working very well. And as we've mentioned before, as we grow more and more of that voting power over these dexes, like for Solid Lizard, for example, what we can start doing is using our voting power to vote on other pools, like outside of Dyson's vaults, for example, vote on these other pools that have high bribe rewards. And then those bribe rewards can be forwarded to the ylSPHERE SLIZ LP stakers to further provide yield for those individuals. So there's a lot that can be done with the voting power in these different dexes. And Dyson, with its liquid wrapper, is doing something very effectively that other protocols have not quite been able to do in this sense. I'm just getting caught up on chat here. Just a comment about SLIZ price. So often is the case with emission protocols, there's typically an initial hype phase, and then there has to be an equilibrium achieved with these different tokens. So that can often be the case for these different tokens. But it doesn't affect our long-term goal of these different projects, and ultimately we have a lot of governance and voting power within them. So things are going according to plan in that sense. But very good question. Okay. All right. What else we have here? We've mentioned that in addition to Lovematic and how that can integrate with Satin, we're looking at expanding the rebasing mechanic into liquid farmed BNB as well. So we're starting to see that we can branch out these different products into different things and gradually expand our reach here within DeFi. And also take another shot at rebasing. Exactly, Ferret. In the chat here. We also mentioned that linear boosted pools will be able to integrate Dyson into Balancer and will allow us to provide star liquidity, star being our stablecoin from Prion, and also bootstrap other protocols within the boosted pool mechanism. And this is all thanks to our governance holdings. All right. Another thought to mention is that, out of all of these different projects that we can make wrappers for, it really only takes one to take off from a revenue standpoint for us to really achieve significant success. So, the more that we can expand our reach in that sense, the more likely it is for the entire ecosystem to slingshot forward based on the success of these underlying protocols. That's the benefit of building on top of, building synergistically with all of these different protocols, is that we're able to piggyback off of that success in a sense, such that we are able to gain governance power and revenue based on these other projects and protocols. And that is what we'll keep doing. The emissions that we're gaining through Dyson, regardless of the price, for example, of SLIZ, SP SLIZ, regardless of the price action of SLIZ, Dyson is permanently vote locking these tokens. So it's not an option for us to sell, exit the position, what have you. These are permanent risks that Dyson is taking on, so that users can have amplified yield, amplified returns from these different projects. Dyson is taking on all of that risk in order to allow and provide amplified yield. That's the entire purpose and goal of Dyson. And CryptoFat in the stage chat also pointed out something very well. Also, is that for most of these VE33 dexes, emissions are very high initially. There's a very high initial emission rate, high inflation rate, and then that gradually tapers off. There's a decay in the emissions over time, making it more and more scarce. So that's also something to consider. That's how the majority, if not all, of these VE33 dexes work. Even Balancer, for example, is doing this. So, for example, per a proposal passed through Balancer, BAL emissions reduced by 16% per year. And we just hit that mark, which in part explains the lower APR for the Sphere W-Matic LP. So something else to keep in mind as well. All right, I should also touch upon the SP Satin VAMM Satin Cash LP. This vault is now available on Dyson for users to go into. So you can mint SP Satin and also create the stable LP to then put into the Dyson vault. And I do plan on making a video tutorial for that, because it is a little bit more complicated than the single staking governance tokens, being that currently the governance token for Satin is an LP. So there's a couple additional steps that need to be taken in order to take advantage of that Dyson auto compounder, but I'll be able to walk you through that within that video tutorial. All right. I should also mention we are expanding to the Kava chain. We just saw that tweet recently about, was it Vera and VE Vera? So we'll be introducing ylSPHERE, the liquid wrapper for VE-Vera. And VE-Vera is the governance token of the VE33 DEX on the Kava chain, which is ylSPHERE. And that is the de facto DEX on Kava, which currently has about 22 million in TVL last time I checked. Kava, for those wondering, is a decentralized blockchain that combines the speed and interoperability of Cosmos with Ethereum. So it's a unique blockchain that serves a unique purpose. The other interesting concept about VE33 DEXs is because emissions are decaying over time, what happens is that you need more and more bribes to be given in order to achieve the same amount of emissions or more as that decay occurs. So ultimately, what does that mean? It means more bribe revenue for the governance holders. Who's the governance holders? Well, Dyson is creating the liquid wrapper solutions. And those additional bribe revenues, where does that all go? Back to the vault users of Dyson. So there's really many different layers and elements to this that come together to provide amplified returns for users. All right. Other things we're doing, so we are collaborating with more UniV3 style products. These are the concentrated liquidity style products, ones that are live and are yet to come live. We've also mentioned a team restructuring to be able to work faster. For example, working with a marketing agency to expand our team into multiple different parts. And of course, this is all still more or less the tip of the iceberg in terms of everything that is being built within the Sphere ecosystem and everything that can be built over time. One thing I did want to comment, because it came up previously. So, these AMAs are recorded, streamed on YouTube. We're here in the Sphere Discord, and now we're pushing to Twitter AMA Spaces. We do our best to read all of the different comments and questions from now all three of these different sources. So we do appreciate your feedback, your questions, your interaction, your engagement. That is the entire point of these AMAs. So we certainly appreciate you being here. I would say if you're interested in learning more and being engaged, especially in these AMAs, asking questions, here live on the AMA, the best place is going to be on the Sphere Discord. But of course, we'll be able to do our best, as I mentioned, to pick up from all three of these different sources. Is Sphere going to get the blue tick on Twitter? I think that is still in discussion. All right. I'm going to start on kind of the main purpose of these AMAs, which is our stage questions. So for individuals who have questions throughout the week, we encourage you to post them in our #StageQuestions Discord server, and then I prepare answers to them and kind of go through them for everyone to kind of read through. So I'm going to head over to there. And let's start with Rudy. He asked 4 questions in one, with multiple edits throughout the week, as I noticed. But question number 1 by Rudy is about forced appreciation and deflation. Would Sim be comfortable in making a deep dive on Sphere, forced appreciation, long-term plans? For example, in what ways the team is still considering it, any specific milestones, what would lead to implementation, etc. So essentially, burning has currently been put on hold. There is only so much yield that can be generated from the treasury to be economically profitable and sustainable. And that's why we decided to focus on providing yield. The yield supports Sphere as a token, and there will always be demand for people to earn yield from blue chip assets. Burning tends to encourage people to sell rather than hold the tokens and earn yield from them. But regardless, burns will come back at the team's discretion and possibly under a different concept at a later time. But for now, the focus is on providing yield to those who are willing to yield lock their tokens. So if that didn't make sense to anyone, currently you can yield lock your sphere for a period of 4 months as ylSPHERE or yield locked sphere in order to earn blue chip tokens, most notably WMATIC. And that is one of the primary ways to earn yield on your sphere tokens. Additionally, you can provide liquidity to Balancer in an 80-20 sphere WMATIC LP, which right now is around 30% APR last time I checked. The other thing to comment on this is, we talked about Sphere having the forced depreciation, being deflationary over time. Right now, Sphere has a fixed supply. It is a deflationary protocol, but we do need to get all of the ecosystem elements in place and ramp up our revenue streams and perhaps create different concepts for how to provide these burns. So there's a lot to balance and consider within that, right? Yield within the ecosystem has to go to these different places, and we very much want to favor those who are willing to yield lock their sphere, and that's what we're doing right now with ylSPHERE and putting burns on hold for the time being. All right, let me just check stage chat. Any questions from that? Lilo had responded to the question about, is Sphere going to get the blue ticker on Twitter? Inevitably, we may have to, is the answer to that question. All right, very good. So I'll move on to the next question by Rudy in our stage questions, which is holding Sphere versus using it. Will the original proposition of holding Sphere still be beneficial without locking it or employing it in any of the ecosystem parts? For example, ylSPHERE or the future vSphere, which will be our V3 tokenomics coming in the future. So this question is kind of similar to your first question, and ultimately that decision is up to you as the investor. The goal of the ecosystem that Sphere is building is to bring value to Sphere holders, and those who are willing to lock their tokens will always be favored when it comes to the distribution of that value. All right, next question. Question number 3 by Rudy, metrics for salary allocation. What are the metrics used to establish allocation of salaries versus reinvesting revenues into the ecosystem? The team uses many metrics and proactively plans on many different scenarios when it comes to payroll and expenses. And while I understand the curiosity of wanting to know the exact metrics and conversations, these in-depth and often quite detailed conversations are not privy to those outside of the core of Sphere. But we appreciate your curiosity. All right, number 4, possible conflict of interest. How do you ensure that the interests of the token holders are being prioritized over those of the project or team founders? So we have constantly discussed that our focus is on the long-term benefit of Sphere, and we have had to often defend our position multiple times when people wished us to take action for short-term relief versus the long-term benefit. And a great example of that is holding off on burns for the time being and focusing on providing yield to yield-locked Spherians. I can personally say without hesitation that the entire team has worked and is working very hard for the long-term success of Sphere. But ultimately, that decision is up to you as the investor, as the holder, to determine whether or not you feel that we are acting in your best interest. All right. A question coming up here in stage chat. What happened to Unknown, Cone, Penrose? So Cone and Dystopia are VE33 dexes run through the Tattoo team, and they are still active dexes. There are upgrades being worked on for these dexes, but the Tattoo team is working on upgrades to their own platform, Tattoo, getting it to Tattoo V2 before that they can then work on an upgrade fully Dystopia and Cone. Penrose and Unknown are operating as intended. They are yield optimizers for Dystopia and Cone. And so their success relies on the success of Cone and Unknown. And we are also waiting on updating Penrose and Unknown until Dystopia and Cone receive their updates from Tattoo as well. What are we doing with our monthly revenue? Do you mean monthly revenue from those specific projects or in general? In general, the revenue generated by the Sphere ecosystem is used in multiple different ways. Obviously, paying for the salaries of the team, compounding the treasury, expanding the team, providing yield to yield lock Spherians, building Sphere's governance, which is very important, and eventually providing burns. So there's many factors that go into what is done with monthly revenue, and that can change any given month. All right. Oops. And next, let's go back to stage questions. Polar had asked, can Sim elaborate on the restructuring of the core team and also when treasury allocation breakdown? So yes, Sim alluded to the fact that Sphere has been in the process for a few weeks now of interviewing and onboarding a significant third-party marketing team. And once everything is 100% finalized, we will be able to provide more information. But right now we can't. Regarding the treasury, Cyril is currently working with the team and our treasury manager to be able to provide a streamlined and detailed treasury report. So please stay tuned. All right. Next stage question is from Toki. All roads lead to Sphere. Great name. Can you please expand upon what Sim means by linear boosted pools, which will integrate Dyson into Balancer? I'm having a hard time seeing how this will work since my face has been melted. Well, there are many different ways that a pool can be boosted. And while I can't provide too much detail on this until more information is officially released, what I can do is encourage you to explore how Tattoo's boosting pools work. So, in a nutshell, Tattoo's boosted pools gradually provide more and more yield linearly for those who withhold claiming that yield for up to 28 days. And after 28 days, the full rewards are available for claiming, and then once claimed, the yield boost timer resets. So that kind of creates a dynamic where users are rewarded for delaying gratification, and even more so because the boosted rewards forfeited by those who leave the pool early are redistributed to all pool participants who remain. Now again, there are many different ways that a pool can be boosted, and we can talk in more detail about these types of pools and how they will integrate Dyson into Balancer once more information is officially released. But it's a good question. All right. Very good. So next stage question here by Souls. Hello, I was in this project over a year ago before the entire market dumped. I should still have my coins, but is there a new Sphere token now? What happened to the old tokens? Yes, so please add the new contract from hashtag Sphere contracts in the Sphere Discord. And additionally, if you still have Sphere and Sphere games, please first claim any unclaimed Sphere drip rewards, and then withdraw your Sphere from Sphere games. That can be done 100% tax-free. Sphere has no taxes anymore. You can then choose to simply hold your Sphere, swap for another token if you so desire, though please use Balancer to swap for the lowest slippage. You can yield lock your Sphere on Dyson to earn blue chip tokens, or you can provide Sphere in the Sphere Wmatic BPT on Balancer to earn BAL token emissions. And thank you, Oxy, for responding to that more promptly. All right, very good. A couple more questions to go here in the hashtag stage questions. All right. OX404. Hi, from what I know, ylSPHERE staking rewards come from Dyson and partially from the treasury. How much TVL does Dyson need to accumulate to fully back the ylSPHERE staking rewards and end the reliance on Sphere's treasury? So, a couple of things about this question. That's not entirely accurate. ylSPHERE staking rewards come mainly from yield from the Sphere treasury. And as Dyson ramps up, we can add yield from Dyson to that. I also don't think necessarily that you're thinking about this in the right way. The Sphere treasury is a vital part of the Sphere ecosystem, and yields from the treasury will always be able to be used to provide yields to Sphere. So it's not so much about a reliance on one thing or another. Rather, it's about building these different revenue streams and ecosystem components that all funnel together towards Sphere. All right, just catching up in Sphere chat. All right. We have Brio in the stage questions. If the Sphere team is using generative AI, is the Sphere team using generative AI to help them in coding more efficiently? If so, in what regard, and if not, why? I am not personally part of the coding team, so I don't have an answer to this. But I would say that it's ultimately up to them and their individual knowledge base, comfort level, and whether or not they see any benefit in using generative AI versus any other tools and resources in their coding. I think it would boil down to personal preference at that point. But I also do see now that we do to a degree. So there you go. But my thought is, again, like there's many different tools and resources. There's many different tools and resources available, to anyone as a coder. So it kind of would boil down to personal preference at that point. All right. Let's see. Next question here by good old Harambe. I would like to expand upon the question from Rudy. You mentioned how there's only so much money coming from the treasury. How do you ensure that the interests of the token holders are being prioritized? This is the same question as before, so it's more or less the same answer, right? So let me see here. So again, it's the same type of response, right? We've constantly discussed that we are focusing on the long term of Sphere and always pushing forward that these are the paths that we need to take and consider versus taking short term ways of relieving pain, for example. And again, I personally can say without hesitation that our team is working very hard for the long term success of Sphere, but ultimately, that's your decision as the investor, as the holder, to determine for yourself whether or not you feel that we are acting in your best interest. All right. Hellfire, any possibilities of Sphere being listed on any centralized exchanges in the near future? So we've gotten this question before, and the goal of Sphere is, and the focus of Sphere, I should say, is within the decentralized finance space, the decentralized finance realm, right? We are generating mechanisms to acquire governance tokens over these different protocols, over these VE33 dexes, which by definition is decentralized finance, right? That is the era of the governance token, so to speak. So with respect to joining on a centralized exchange, it's a question of, what benefit would that potentially bring versus what are the costs associated? Because oftentimes, in order to join a centralized exchange, you have to provide that liquidity. So now it becomes a question of liquidity management, fund management, which expands into this whole other discussion that needs to be had in terms of, again, is it worthwhile? Or, for example, would that liquidity better be positioned on a decentralized exchange in order to earn yield from that exchange, decentralized exchange? So there's a lot of intricate pieces to that discussion, and basically we can boil down the answer to right now we're not interested in joining a centralized exchange. All right. So that more or less sums up what I have for you in terms of the stage questions and updates from core. So if anyone has any thoughts or questions, we can start funneling those. And again, the easiest way is through the stage chat on Sphere's Discord, though if you are responding on Twitter and YouTube, we will do our best to funnel those as well. All right, lots of things going on. Let's see here. I can't answer questions about when, Mr. Mouse. I do apologize. Mm-hmm. I see a comment on Twitter Space about this treasury spending being private. It's on the blockchain. There's nothing private about that. Oh, thank you, Crypto RY, and good night. I appreciate that. Yes, sir. Thune is Thune is Thune. It's very hard to give time frames on things. And though I am not in coding and software development, I've been in discussion with these things long enough to know that putting solid timelines on software development is very difficult. And I know soon is a very painful answer because it's not what you're looking for. Um, so the best we can do is kind of provide the updates in terms of where they are in the process. So, for example, as I mentioned earlier, with Lovematic, that is now being tested by the staff, outside of the core team. Prion is going through internal testing. So those are the best updates I can give with respect to that. But I am just as eager as you are for these to be released and the soon to be now. But unfortunately, it is a matter of patience for both of us. Eager anticipation is the phrase I would use. Yes, and delayed gratification, exactly. All right. So we're doing good on time. We have about 15 minutes left. We don't have to take all the time, of course, if we don't need to, but if anyone else has any questions, there's a lot going on in the ecosystem right now. There's a lot going on with Sphere, with Dyson's vaults. Yes, we're aware of the API issues and we're working on them, but in addition to that, we're expanding Dyson into many different avenues, many different chains. So there's a lot of work that's going on behind that. We're working on two separate projects, right? SphereLend, technically not separate, but you know what I mean, within the umbrella of Sphere, and Prion. So a lot going on in the background being worked on. Dillip, I don't understand your question. I'm sorry, in stage chat. I do want to comment on one thing. I think one of the challenges that I've seen overall in terms of, core versus that gap between core and community is there's a lot of things in the work behind the scenes. And one of the challenging things for us is to, basically hold off on sharing information until it is finalized. So that presents a challenge for you guys in the community because, you hear about all these different things, but it's very nebulous. It's not tangible. It doesn't really mean anything to you until it finally becomes crystallized and we can show you, point to it. It's very difficult for you, the community members. I definitely understand that struggle. And I'm sorry because there's really not a better way around it, because this is a realm of software development, and to be generating these things and creating these different products means that other people would also be interested in doing what we would be doing if they think it would be profitable. So we have to keep things close to our chest until it's finalized, until we can release it. But even beyond that, a lot of times we will be signing non-disclosure acts with these different partners, in which case we literally and legally cannot say anything. So it just makes that communication that much more difficult, and then it can make you guys feel like you're kind of in the dark about a lot of things, and it's because you are. So I think I it just makes it difficult. So we appreciate your patience. We appreciate when you can have discussions with us and talk about the things that have already been released, that are in the works, that have been announced. And I encourage you to continue to have that curiosity about the things that may come. And we will be more than happy to talk about them when we are able to. Do when we see issues with projects. Yeah, so Harambe, like, especially with, so for example, Dyson and the UniV3 API issues, the issues with showing the yield, or even with the SP Satin yield and TVL, those are at 0 right now. So naturally, that makes it very difficult for a beginner coming into Dyson looking to add assets to one of the vaults. That would be putting up questions in my mind as well. So we definitely understand that, and we are working on permanent solutions. In terms of the Satin vault, that depends. We're waiting on what is it, CoinMarketCap and Gecko to actually show the price of Satin, and then we can start pulling that information. So sometimes we have to wait on these things too. It's not entirely in our control, but we do see those issues as well. We appreciate the feedback into the Sphere bugs, Dyson bugs, what have you, and we can work off of those. Oh, did my voice go very deep? All right. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Always happy that you guys are here and engaging. Again, for those on YouTube and Twitter Spaces, I would say our kind of home base is the Sphere Discord. We have our stage chat, we have our stage questions. That is primarily where I will operate on for these AMAs, but of course, we do our best to read through all 3 of these different sources as well. Mama, I just joined. Can I get a brief summary? Sphere Moon when? Something like that. No, we talked about a lot. It'd be kind of hard to summarize. I apologize, but fortunately, everything is recorded. It'll be there on YouTube to watch. You can double speed it to your heart's desire. I encourage that because I know sometimes I do talk slowly. And yeah. And yes, I always post the link to the recording in our hashtag stage archive, again, in the Sphere Discord. What do you guys think about the earlier start time? Was that helpful? Should we go back to the previous time? The new time? Okay. I see. Way better for the. Okay. Yeah. I agree. I think that the earlier time is going to be better for the majority of people. So we will continue with that. Um, Approximately how many devs do we have? We've answered this before, and for some reason, my brain is not capable of retaining that information. I think the general answer is that we have front end devs, we have back end devs, um, and that's all I got for you. I am sorry, but I swear this is like the third time someone has asked that, and once again, my brain just I don't know. It has space for everything else, but for that particular information, please help me, mods. I see all three of you guys typing. I appreciate it. And yeah, CryptoFat makes a good point is that we are looking to expand the team. We are looking for more devs. So if you know someone, please have them apply through the Sphere website. Hmm. All right. Any questions about the recent vaults? We have the SP Satin vaults, um, some different announcements in terms of new partnerships coming forward. Beer still hasn't voted. I'm not sure on that, but I do know that that is definitely a priority one way or another because it's of course through the voting that we get the emissions to the different vaults. So we'll look into that, but I know that is high priority. Thank you, Pandu, for posting the link for what we're looking for. All right. Any last minute questions? Then we'll end in a minute or two here. Also, remember too is throughout the week, if you do think of any questions or anything comes up, feel free to reach out to us on our Sphere Discord. We have our different moderators who are more than happy to help you. A lot of community members are willing to help out as well. And you can always also ask questions in our stage questions under AMA stage. And next week, I will do my best to answer them. All right, I see just a couple more people typing, and then we will finish things up here. All right. Well, I guess I will take this time then to say thank you to everybody who has joined us on YouTube, on our Discord, and on Twitter. We really appreciate it. Thanks for everyone for showing up, for interacting, engaging. Um, Certainly adds a lot of value to what we do, so we really appreciate it. All right. Well, with that, I think I will end everything. So thanks again. Always remember, you guys, that you each matter for who you are. I do truly mean that. And I will see you all next time. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. And until next week, take care. Bye bye.